morning everybody and welcome back to another episode in our LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 4. Now it's been a couple of weeks longer than I anticipated and of course I'm sure that you were wishing for, but today we'll be looking at set 0057 with 315 pieces. A lot of you guessed at least what part of it was. This is of course the Ancient Machines Battle Pack from Skyward Sword. I teased the Armos last week, but there's actually a full set here and there's a surprising amount to take a look at. Probably my second favourite battle pack, I imagine. I'm really quite in love with the Armos build. I think it's fantastic. One of two Skyward Sword builds this time around, which I'm incredibly proud of. But without further ado, let's take a look at that box art and get on in. So, as mentioned, this is Z0057, Ancient Machines Battle Pack for ages 8 and up, with 315 pieces, retailing for 19.99 Great British pounds. Yep, that inflation's hitting home. Should be 14. It said it's 20. One minifigure and 3 brick built characters. It's on the larger side for battle packs. Potentially, if this was in a Star Wars license, it would be a £30 set. Here, of course, it's only 20, maybe 25 if I'm being realistic with myself. Taking a look at our description note, it says, turn back time and activate a long-forgotten army of machines with the LEGO Legend of Zelda Ancient Machines Battle Pack. Collect multiple sets to defend any dungeon, castle or treasures you see fit. Mine the timeshift stones and restore the BMOS using the included spinning feature to turn back time. Ride the minecarts and watch your forces grow. Bit of a hard set to market, if I'm honest. I have no idea how to describe these battle packs where Link's not included or Hero's not included, because it's sort of just like, these are all villains. How do I make the villains sound less villainy? However, of course, in the lore of Search for Lanayru, these machines were either operations in the factory or defenders of the robots in the factories. So it sort of makes a little bit more sense. So taking one last close look at our box, you can see a very simple background showing some of the factory machinery, as well as on this ledge you've got all of your different elements, including our one minifigure of a Technoblin who has a new mold, and then all the different ancient machines which I've been nervous and excited to make for a long time. And of course we've got our normal green box art as well. And then we open up the thing, we have 3 bags following in the Bowser Jr.'s clown car style of just showing as many bags into a very small set as possible. There's about 100 pieces a bag, and then one awfully rendered instruction manual. Of course these bags are paper. And then if we look inside our awfully rendered instruction manual, just like the real ones, we have that bag 1 builds us our Centrobe and its little friends, the minecart and the timeshift stone. Bag 2 gives us our Technoblin minifigure as well as our BMOS and BMOS spinning contraption. And then finishing off with bag 3, that is just the Armos. It's the most piece-dense build in the set. Contains quite a few pieces actually, probably almost half of the ones in the set. And here is the set all together, so let's start breaking it apart feature by feature and talk through what's included. So, taking away our minifigure, there are sort of, well, 5 major components. You've got the Centrobe, the BMOS and the Armos, and then the minecart with its timeshift stone. Starting with the simplest, you've got one of these Lanayru mining carts. It's actually fairly accurate, shockingly, to the ones that appear in Skyward Sword. If you look at it, obviously the patterning around the tops are always more intricate, but it's basically a red pattern with a teal pattern on top and a dark bluish grey pattern or rim around the edge. They've been a little bit accentuated here, and then you've got the white bottom of the minecart and the glow of a timeshift stone in the thing. Obviously they would hover. You could use the transparent pieces from these Centrobes to make this happen, or you can just roll it along the ground using its smooth surface on the bottom. A couple of different things you can do with this minecart though, of course, are one, apart from looking kind of really cool actually, you can put the timeshift stone here, which is just a transparent pyramid piece shining through a gunmetal grey chi crystal, a recolor. I think this is the best way to represent like the ones, the timeshift stones that are stuck in that mountain of other ore. So it's sort of like only a part of it, it's only been like partially excavated, and that's just stuck in a black 2x2. And there's 4 studs on the inside, where of course you could stick the timeshift stone in there and then transport it around or push it around. Or in fact, if you had a Link minifigure from another set, you could of course put him or the Technoblin or anyone else inside it. Here I'm just using the Sheikah Shorts Link from my Hinox Beach Rampage custom set. Of course, the green Links are more common. He was just in the right position to make it look like he was actually sat inside, and I think he looks appropriately nervous wherever this minecart could be heading. One last note about the Lanayru builds in general is that the teal and dark red are the best 2 colours, I think, to represent a lot of the really bright, wacky things that are going on. Specifically, the teal is just the perfect colour for these ancient machines, and you'll see it a lot throughout the 3 builds today. Next up, we have the Centrobe with a new recolor of the propeller piece in teal. The Centrobe is like a ball with a propeller that opens up and shoots rockets at you. Unfortunately, this one cannot shoot. It flies around, so it's on a couple of transparent bricks, so it looks like it's elevated off the ground. And at a point in this fight, it deploys these little orbs, which are made out of some Technic wheel elements or like ball joint elements that have been repurposed here. And they're just floating on transparent things as well. And these things explode, so I thought it'd be nice to be able to swoop them around and make them attack Link. However, the Centrobe in the past, or in the present I should say, sort of dries up and becomes a ball. We'll see that feature in a minute. Here is the Centrobe on its own. You can see the red, which would be the rocket that it shoots at you. You just got to pretend, unfortunately. There's no way I could fit a spring-loaded shooter into a build this small. I really wanted to focus on making it look recognizable, which is why it's designed like this, so that you can actually shrink it up and sort of bring the two halves together like it's closed up, either when it's damaged, when it's dead, when it's frozen in time in the past if you took the propeller off, or if it's just about to deploy the balls, it might like hide its weak spot, being the rocket launcher, when it's not attacking as like a shield. So that's a nice bit of playability that's added. Moving on though, of course, we have the BMOS section. BMOSes being my favourite of the robot enemies, despite the Armoses looking cooler. I love the BMOS, and I wanted to include at least one timeshift play feature in this set. So you can see here that the BMOS is on a raised platform with the bright colours of the Lanayru mining facility. You've got these lovely brick wall exposed sections, some iron girders and some masonry work, as well as some dark tan, and the bright red floors as well. Of course, on the other side you've got in the present day, where it's all dusty and deserty, so the brick wall's lost its colour and become a little bit eroded, lots of tan, dark tan, and then of course you actually have the BMOS there in its decayed form, which we'll take a closer look at later. Around the bottom you have holes. This is actually a dungeon module, so this can combine with your other dungeon expansions. I like to always offer ways to include these builds with the rest of the sets, and unlike this one, you're not exactly building an army camp, so I thought I'd best include at least something as a dungeon room. However, we're not going to take a look at it in its dungeon form today. From the top down, you can clearly see what's about to happen. There's a rotating platform, so let's take a look at that feature. You pretend to hit the timeshift crystal, which is obviously behind the alive BMOS, and then he rotates through the wall to bring the past into the present, or more specifically, the present into the past. So either you can display it either way. You can either have the past being like not lit up in the, like, you can have the decayed version not lit up, or you can have the past being brought back into the present. Time travel in Skyward Sword, incredibly confusing. We'll take a look at the BMOS and of course the features of him in a little bit, and here he is. So comparing, of course, the design is the same between the decayed version and the alive version. The decayed version has lost one of its little feathers. It's all like turned off. It's all using tan and dark tan, and all those pieces are available. So if you wanted to build a decayed BMOS, you can indeed. The one on the left, however, is still alive and functioning. It's using the new half-cylinder pieces to be the fans on the side of its head in teal, which was the majority colour of those pieces. Obviously, printing would be ideal. However, plain works just fine. You've got the bar attachments going into the side of the head, where you can see its blue laser eye, which is hollow, and then it's built up of a tower of bricks. Now, I don't have a render of this because it wouldn't let me render it, but you can sort of see that this tower is built up of different segments, and just like the BMOS in real life, you can split him into 3 removable segments, easily removable like Bongo Bongo's fingers, and of course he will collapse down, allowing you to shoot a timeshift stone and change time. Once again, obviously he blocks it, so there's actually some integration of realism into the play feature. When you bring the BMOS back to life, it blocks the timeshift stone, meaning you can't change it back, so interesting mechanics to be had there. The blue plates represent the 2 energy slices, and the tan is just the rest of the column. It's basically just a combination of jumper plates that hold the sections together, and it's sort of like a hit, knock, knock, sort of like a Mario enemy, sort of like the Desert Pokey, but obviously with studs to hold it together because he's a larger build. Either way, fantastic. I really love the way he's come out. And here is that decayed one, all up close, just for a little extra detail. It's basically just built around a modified brick core and sat on a hinge to show that it's decayed. And one thing I wanted to mention was this classic ideas set done back in 2012, 2015, that also used the Lanayru mining facility. Now, I don't think that my designs were entirely inspired by these ones, more so just by the stuff you see in game. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't look back fondly upon this custom, and I just think how wonderful the models are, and actually how similar the use of the fan pieces is just fantastic. I think subconsciously I probably was inspired by this. They just look wonderful. I love this old ideas set. No one else loves this old ideas set. It's truly fantastic. I love specifically the BMOS in this custom. But I just thought it reminded me of that as we went through. So, moving on though to the highlight of the set, at least in my opinion, we'll take a look at him next to source material in just a little bit. However, here we have an Armos from Skyward Sword, which is by far the most creative Armos design across the whole Zelda series. So it's sort of like a cross between like a tiki head and like a tribal figure, a bit like the Twilight Princess Armoses, but way more colourful, way larger. And you've sort of got this red and blue colour scheme with the fan on top. Obviously you spin the fan in the game and the teeth open for you to shoot the crystal. And if you have a look at the picture on the right, you can actually see there is a crystal in there to smack. However, it's not actually reachable. Unfortunately, if I wanted detail, I couldn't do the play feature, and if I wanted play feature, the guy looked terrible. Not to say he still doesn't look terrible, he definitely looks a little goofy. Specifically though, Armoses do have a dual face expression, meaning that one side is a little bit more serious and the other one's a little bit more goofy, I guess. So the one on the right is the goofier one, using white teeth and a slightly different nose angle, just to make him look a bit sillier. However, I thought the DC minifigure superhero piece was perfect to create a unique nose angle, and the eyes aren't great, but they're the best you can sort of do at this scale. And on top of the head, of course, we've got the recolor of the shell piece in red to look like that little squiggly symbol that goes on the top of these Guardians. And then right at the bottom, you've also got the spikes, which is obviously what hits Link. You've got his arms on the side of his face and these big yellow bars as well. So a truly wonderful conversion. Let's take a look at those close-up details. Down at the bottom, that gives you a clearer view of the transparent blue thing, which of course you would hit in game. Just a little Easter egg that it's included in there. You can also see the spikes at the bottom more clearly, and these curved slopes which are being used to represent the arms. Towards the top, you can see the nostrils, the nose piece, which is held on by a stud in the center to sort of offset it. You've got two big blue ancient energy eyes, and then of course these bars on the side, which are sort of like frilly attachments. And then at the very top there, you can see the spinner, which of course has the blue sides and the red sides, and you can spin it either way. It's just on a cone on a jumper, so it might be a little bit stiff, but it will work well enough. And here are those three ancient machines next to each other. You've got all three of them from Skyward Sword here. The Centrobe, the Beamos, and the Armos. Of course, the Centrobe, the Beamos and the Armos, I should say, have all appeared in other games. Technically, uncanonically in Wind Waker, which is the only other Beamos we've made, the golden one from Tower of the Gods. However, I'll show you this next to the Wind Waker Armos in just a minute. So that is our fifth Wave 4 set, but of course we're not done yet. We have some minifigures to take a look at, and that is of course the Technoblin. Bet you forgot he was included. I almost did. And you can see him here with his electric sword. I tried to replicate it as best I could with bricks. It's using a recolor of the longer lightsaber hilt in transparent blue, sort of like a superhero piece. And he's got a brand new molded head. Now, originally when I started this custom set showcase, I said I was only going to make one Bokoblin head mold. It was going to be the Breath of the Wild mold, and that was it. However, as there's another Skyward Sword set coming, I thought, yeah, we'll make a new mold and we'll reuse it over those two sets. And maybe, in fact, after 3 waves of normal Bokoblins, they changed up the Bokoblin design like they do with Stormtroopers every 5 or 6 years, and this new Bokoblin design will actually be used if Breath of the Wild Bokoblins show up again in other sets, and that actually just be red Skyward Sword Bokoblins. It was one way I considered having more variation among the Bokoblin troops, is to use different game models every couple of years when you can afford to do a new mold, or when a variant like this Technoblin necessitates it. However, that's enough waffling about new molds. Here is the Centrobe figure, and here is its reference, of course. Again, it's very hard to do at this small scale, but the general gist of what's there is here. You've got a grey middle with a red laser and 2 tan half shells. There's an argument to be made that they should be white, should be printed, should have red on the side, but again, it's simple, it's not bulky, and its little orbs are just there as well. And then finally we have the Beamos, or not finally, we have the Armor still to take a look at. You can see him with his live and decayed version here, along with his reference on the screen. Now this one's a little bit more tricky. Potentially there should be some dark grey in here. I might still play around with this guy, see what I can come up with, and again potentially the wings on the side should also be dark grey, and maybe the blue slicer line should also be transparent. There's lots of things you could do for colour swaps here. He potentially looks a little bit tan, but my favourite version of the Beamos is actually the decayed version. I just think it's so neat, and all the parts are available. I'll definitely be picking one of these up in my next Bricklink order. Moving on though to our Armos, our final character for today. You can finally get a look and see how close he is to his original design. Right, so there's a lot to cover here. The nostrils are potentially a tad too far apart, however, without making this guy gigantic, there was no way around it. His pupils are by definition too small, however, again, without custom prints, there's no way around it. His rotors on the top, again, too small. That one's artistic license, I'm fine with that. And of course, his head crown has been tackled incredibly differently, however not exactly wrongly. I kind of like it. The yellow bits on the side are about as accurate as you're going to get at this scale. There's definitely some proportional wobbling with his face, but overall for a custom build in a Lego set of this size, I'm fine with this for now. Maybe I come back later and change it, maybe not. We'll see what happens in a couple of years' time, or maybe we even get an official one, and I love it. I would love to see a real Lego Armos, especially the Skyward Sword one. I think he looks absolutely fantastic in this design. It's so creative, it's so different for the Zelda series, and the Lego one is passable. The more I look at it, the worse I think it is. Okay, and just for that last sake of comparison, I did mention the Wind Waker BMOS earlier, but here is the Wind Waker Armos, or really the statues used in Tower of the Gods. Yeah, technically there are other Armoses, the larger ones, but these are the closest to an Armos we've already done. And then adding the Technoblin to our Bokoblin lineup, these Bokoblins, or at least the blue, red, and black ones, were all Wave 1 figures, so they're showing their age just a little bit with their blurriness. Silver was a Wave 2 figure, and then of course here you have the Technoblin from Wave 4, looking a little bit more crisp, and of course with his new head mold, he fits right in though. And this is actually our 5th Zelda Battle Pack as well. We started off again in Wave 1 with the Bokoblin Battle Pack, that's the remastered image on your screen. The Zalphos Battle Pack and Ice Battle Pack, which is my least favourite set, has followed in Wave 2, with the Castle Troop Battle Pack being in Wave 3, again not my all-time favourite. The Ancient Machines Battle Pack, definitely a much better Battle Pack in my opinion, a much better set in my opinion. You could really get a couple of these and stick them all together to make quite an awesome display. Specifically the BMOS section, usually find them in groups of 2 or 3, a couple more Technoblins wouldn't help, and another couple of minecarts would allow you to do some interesting things with timeshift stones, and of course minifigure transport. So overall, really solid addition to the Battle Pack lineup, probably my second favourite, if not third, with Bokoblin and Lizalfos still holding the cake out. I don't know, I don't think we have another Battle Pack in Wave 4, however we certainly have more Skyward Sword content coming. But in the meantime, that's actually going to do it for today. I'm not going to tease what's coming next time, as next week we're going to be returning to the castle for the first time in a long time, and then we'll just see how things go. There's lots of custom sets left, they're all in half development stages, but bringing them together in the box art and making sure I don't miss any renders like I did today is going to mean I'm going to take my time and just go at whatever pace we feel right, hopefully just enjoy producing the sets and making them as good as they can, because I worry that sometimes they are a little rushed, but maybe I have too high standards. Anyway, on that note, let me know what you thought of this custom set down below. Tell me your favourite of the 5 battle packs as well, and if you have any suggestions on how to improve any of these models, of course, leave that as well. What minifigures would you like to see next? Plenty of questions to be answered all down below. And in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.